December jobs growth missing estimates to close out 2025, though the unemployment rate did tick down to 4.4%. Just about 50,000 added. It's the latest sign high interest rates could be hurting U.S. hiring. After months of holding rates too high for too long, critics say the Fed is now paying the price, and they worry Jerome Powell could still drag his feet. Just yesterday, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said Powell needs to move faster and lower interest rates.
I think that we are still substantially above the neutral rate, and I think that we should not be in restrictionary mode. I think most models would show that 250 to 325, but again, I don't target a specific interest rate for the Fed.
For more, let's bring in former Deputy Treasury Secretary Michael Faulkender. Michael, it's good to see you tonight. Okay, we got Jobs Day today. Nobody's calling it a blowout report, but it's got some good elements. It's got some sluggish elements. A lot of people want to know, does it change how the Fed thinks about interest rate moves in the coming year? What do you think?
So when I look at that report, I don't see anything in there that would call for a pause on the reduction in interest rate declines, because the number one thing I look at is the unemployment rate fell more than expected. It fell down to 4.4%, which means for the most part, people who want to be working are able to find jobs. Second, if I look at the wage growth number, the wage growth is in line with the types of productivity improvements that we are seeing in the broader economy. And when employers are seeing that they are able to produce more, they can increase wages commensurate with that without raising prices. And that means that the wage growth is non-inflationary. And then the third thing I look at is, and the thing that's been impacting the jobs report for quite a while is when you have this amount of illegal immigration halting, when you have this many self-deportations, the number that comes out of the employers, you're going to expect that to be a low number because it's going to incorporate, number one, all of the people that left the country voluntarily who used to be in the labor force. And then second, let's remember that we've had massive reductions in government employment because the president has reversed course on all the hiring that took place during the Biden administration. And so when you see that 50,000 jobs are created, it's in an environment where among native-born Americans, they're working more than ever. And so I view it as an overall strong report that is suggestive that we are seeing growth in the economy that is not causing inflation because it's being paid for by productivity improvements.
So the president in his meeting with the oil executives today referenced, I think it's the Atlanta Fed GDP now number. It's the estimate of GDP for the last quarter of last year. And he used 5.4%. I think that's right. I haven't looked at the number lately, but it's a big growth number for the U.S. economy, okay? Which is, I mean, it's historically big. 50,000 jobs seems piddly compared to that number. Does it bother you at all that you've got the big growth, but you just don't seem to have the jobs growth that you'd expect for a GDP number like that?
Well, but Brian, that's exactly why we're seeing the productivity numbers that we are seeing. So when you deregulate as much as this administration is doing, think about all of the work that companies used to have to do just to comply with all of the rules and regulations that were put in place by the Biden administration that the Trump administration is now eliminating. Couple that with the AI boom that's going on and the ability to make workers more productive, we can generate just as much, if not more, goods and services, i.e. the GDP growth that you were just talking about, without greatly increasing employment. And when you look at the demographic challenges that we have an aging population and we have native-born population, more of them retiring than entering the workforce. You couple that with the reductions in immigration, and if anything, we need productivity improvements in order to keep growing. So it's a good thing that we are in this deregulatory and AI boom in order to actually realize both growth while we're constrained on labor supply.
You know, and you mentioned the real wages number from the report. You've got wages growing faster than inflation, which is really good. How much do you expect that to accelerate in 2026?
I think it's going to continue for a couple of reasons. Number one, energy prices are way down. When you look at the crude is in the 50s right now, gasoline prices are much further down. That's going to permeate into the broader economy because, again, if you think about why we have food inflation, the largest cost that family farms confront is energy. And so if energy prices are going to come down, that's going to continue to permeate into other things like food, like clothing, like manufactured goods. And then also, if you look at the rent numbers, so
yes.
what are people paying for rent? It's not just that it's growing at a slower pace, it's actually declining. Rent numbers are actually coming down. We are seeing deflation in rental numbers. Remember that shelter is about a third of the CPI number. So if you've got deflation in energy, potential deflation in food, deflation in rents, that means that overall inflation numbers should be low, if not negative. Couple that with the wage increases we should see from ongoing productivity improvements, and we should see households recovering quite a lot. Then add on top of that the tax refunds that they're going to get from enactment of the big, beautiful bill. And I think you've got a lot of tailwinds for the economy for 2026 that are inherently deflationary.
That's a really good point about the rents. We got to move on to this. Okay, for months, all we heard was hysteria from Democrats that Trump's bailing out Argentina and doesn't care about Americans. Watch.
But then we layer on top of that, he can find $40 billion to bail out Argentina.
$6 billion's a lot of money, and they're using it for other things. $20 billion for Argentina, hundreds of millions for Kristi Noem's plane.
He found $40 billion to send over to Argentina. He's continuing his renovations on the White House and holding lavish parties at Mar-a-Lago while people are starving.
As he jacks up costs for working families with tariffs and shovels billions at Argentina.
There is enough money. There's enough money for a golden toilet. There's enough money for $40 billion for a right-wing government in Argentina.
Well, except the Treasury released the receipts today. Argentina fully paid back the credit swap plus interest. Quick final thought on that one, Michael.
That's right. Argentina was lent money. This was not foreign aid. This was not a grant. This was a recognition that an investment in Argentina, given the economic changes that they were making, were going to pay off, and that we should help our neighbor to the south to realize those improvements in his economy. Treasury got paid in full plus interest.
Michael Faulkender, that was a good old meaty economic conversation. I love them. Thanks for being here to do that with me. I appreciate it. Take care.
Great to be with you.
All right. Coming up, the accused killer of the United Healthcare CEO back in court today. His defense arguing the dismissal of a charge that carries the death penalty. We'll give you an update. Plus, the Minneapolis shooting investigation now entirely in the FBI's hands. The state of Minnesota, not thrilled about that, looking to get in on it. We talk to Paul Morrow and Jonathan Fahey next, and how this intensely followed probe will play out.